What's up, Bills Mafia? I'm Fernando Schmude. That's your leading the charge. I rebranded leading the charge today. New look leading the charge, and to start this new chapter of this leading the charge at my own channel, I have the pleasure of having Dean Kindig with me today. Dean, welcome to the leading the charge, man. I really appreciate having you on the show today, and let's talk a lot of Bills draft. I'm excited and I'm sure my audience is as well. Welcome, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Man, can't wait to talk and to go through all those prospects with you. We are entering or just less than a week ahead of the draft, and a lot of Bills talk, a lot of news coming from the prospects, and I'm pretty sure you have worked a lot on your or scouting the players, scouting the scouts, scouting what the Bills can do. So lots of information to go on today, and I'm sure my audience will have some questions for you as well. But my first question for you, Tim, I would like to have from you, how do you go through all this information that you are able to gather, man, and what's the process for you? Is it during all season long? When do you start it? When does it get harder, like for you, when you start to dedicate more of yourself to those prospect scouting? How does it go? What's the process for you, man?
Well, as people declare for the draft, they can go into this year's spreadsheet, right? But a lot of them decided to return to school. So I already have probably 300 prospects for next year that are on a board, right? And the board is just basically randomly numbered at this point because they were graded lower. And that's why they returned to school. But there are some of them that, especially from Ohio State, that decided all to go back to school. They'll have a great team next year, and I'm sure that Brandon Beane looks ahead to that type of thing. This all starts basically after a week break. After the draft, I'll start ferreting around and looking at players for next year. Two things helped me a lot. Alex Katson, Katson, keeps track of visits to pro days. I used to do that all by myself just by searching Twitter. It took me 100 hours, let's say.
Yeah, for sure.
So there was that, and then so they've been a big help. Draft Scout puts initial numbers out for height, weight, 40 time, and that has really helped as well. I was thinking if I ever did this again next year that I probably would buy that information from Draft Scout just like I buy that information from Alex Katson. So you get some of the information that way. I do my own interviews just by searching YouTube for interviews of that player, try to keep them decent and recent. And then I grade them on a scale that will show my 44 years of teaching experience. I did a lot of admissions testing for my school, and that helped me to figure out what do you look for in a interviewee.
Yeah, man, it's awesome that you mentioned the interviews because I've had some questions from my audience here in Brazil about how do you grade the interviews and what do you look for in the interviews, and I feel like that's an interesting point to start out talking so we can explain to the audience how is this process of evaluating those guys' interviews with what you have available for you, because obviously we don't have access to the official team interviews, team meetings, and things like that.
Right. So so what I call it is interview science, and you're looking for everything. You're looking for the look in their eyes, the genuineness, the eye contact. Does he speak selflessly? Does he deflect praise? Does he see the greater good, the big picture? Does he have an awareness of making the whole room better? Does he have responsibility for the younger guys in the room? Um, does he get does he retweet fellow players' accomplishments? You can look on Twitter or Instagram for that. Does he have a notion of service? I know that Kyle Williams really attracted me back when he was in there for that reason. So he looked for
Awesome.
people that are
Awesome.
doing the community awareness. Does he savor competition, in practice? Does he go at full bore every day, no matter whether it's a practice or a game? There are words that you look for: hustle, grit, lead by example, 1%, going 1-0, that type of thing. And then how does he handle losses? Is he task involved rather than ego involved? Can he flush one game to get on to the next? Does he focus on learning from mistakes, or does he get down on them, overcome the negatives? And then some brain stuff that I think is fascinating. If a person looks up and to his left, he's processing the right hemisphere stuff, which is visual and spatial. So he's gonna react more to charts and graphs and play charts. If he looks down and to his right when being asked a question, then he's accessing the left hemisphere, which is the language linear, basically left hemisphere. And does he do motions called kinesthesia? Does he do body talking? How is his word finding? Mine's terrible, so you'll just have to bear with the stammers.
Man, I'm just thinking here, Dean. I think I could have used some tips from you during my playing career, man.
Right,
It would
right.
have helped me with my interviews, in soccer interviews,
So if you take let's say wide receivers that I think are particularly billsy, here you can see the interview column. All right. So I have 3 players that I thought were the best 3 interviews that I listened to of all of the wide receivers that were scouted a lot. One was Ladd McConkey,
Okay.
one was Tez Walker, and one was Devon Villay. He's probably a 6th rounder. But he's tall. You could take him in the 5th. So the next hierarchy below that were the A+++ in black there: Brian Thomas, Roman Wilson, Jacob Cowing, and Ryan Flournoy of Southeast Missouri State. They actually brought him in for a 30 visit, so I felt very gratified that the guys that I had already graded by interview were doing really, really well. They came in for 30 visits. So I think those are the pet cats as far as Beane is concerned. And Xavier Legette's was a good, an A++ is not a bad interview to speak of. And there might be other reasons that you would choose him.
I can see Jamari Trash there as well, and that's a guy I really like on mid and late rounds, man.
And that when you're looking for a second receiver, a wide receiver that plays out of the slot would be a really good choice, and one that's in the ACC. The ACC had a little dip this year in the number of scouts that went to that conference. SEC was slightly up, Big Ten was way up, and the Pac-12 actually was a little bit higher, but they only went to certain schools, and they didn't even send a scout to the Oregon Pro Day. So I thought that was fascinating.
Absolutely, man. And how about the guys that you could see from the interview aspect and then adding some more stuff? For example, I have in mind, Adonai Mitchell. That's a prospect that I've been fascinated to just watching him play. A guy that I really like since the watching him play for Texas, right? And there has been some bad news about him and about his health and questions about his character. What do you see about his interview, and how much does it impact his status as a potential Bills pick?
Right. So this is everybody. Okay. This is
Hmm.
and right now they're in order. These are the top 150 um, picks, and Xavier Worthy. Right now, I have him at 36. Um, he's he's obviously the fastest, and his visit score of 9 includes a 30 visit, a pro day, a combine meeting. You're getting lots and lots of information there because you want to vet what what he's like, right? And so
Hmm.
he's got one of the 5 best drop rates, meaning good,
Yeah.
dropping fewer passes,
Hmm.
and certainly from those guys down that are absolutely going to be there for the Bills. He has one of the best drop rates, and
Yes.
Leggett does too. Um, that's why I'm not as sold on Keon Coleman. I know that he's slow, but he also had one of the 5 worst drop rates,
Hmm.
and so I'm kind of souring on him as a first choice. But if he starts falling past AD Mitchell and Wilson and those guys, I I
Eddie Mitchell is
think
first there, right, in the drop rate,
yeah, yeah.
in a good way, right?
So you want so if the thing I like about spreadsheets, other than the fact that they're just cool and colorful, is that I can change and look at one aspect right away. Now I've sorted them by the number of scouting points, right? And Brian
Mhm.
Thomas Jr. is at the top, and well, he should be because Brady and Mangus, the wide receiver coaches for the Bills now, were at LSU, so that
Yeah.
one makes a lot of sense to me.
Hmm.
And Lad McConkey uh, is tied with Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson for the third most number of uh, scouting points, if you will. So
Yeah.
the
It's.
go
Do
ahead.
you feel like it's pretty fair to believe that the Bills are gonna trade up for Brian Thomas if the opportunity arises, like in the late teens, in the early 20s, because it looks really good his way, right? And
Right.
and
Well, Bean,
by this
yeah.
point system, looks good.
Well, Bean said yesterday that he didn't like to invest next year's draft capital for this year's players, and I'd like to believe him, but wouldn't it be nice if he was able to get, let's say, a Brian Thomas with a trade up using this year's draft capital, but why not throw somebody a third or second to climb up to 17 this year, and you probably would be able to accomplish that and get one of the best um, people as far as drop rate and as far as wingspan and as far as um, yards per catch versus AP ranked teams. You know, those are all applicable probably to AD Mitchell if they could just um, get diabetes under control, and
Hmm.
and 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 AD Mitchell isn't doing what it needs to be done. I had a couple of kids that had diabetes in school,
Yeah.
and they were doing all that they can. My buddy 3 doors down um, has an implant that sends his current blood sugar information to him and his wife.
Awesome.
And it would be that kind of technology that can mask um, some of that problem that AD Mitchell might have. He has no problem running 4.34,
Mhm.
and he's one of the big guys on in this draft, at least in the top 200.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Bean also talked yesterday about um, especially about the first round pick, the need of fitting some of their box, checking some of their boxes that they have for those prospects, right? And as much as those guys can check those boxes, the chances of that being the Bills guy goes higher, right? So do you feel like Brian Thomas like kind of reminds when he talks about it? Do you think it reminds you Brian Thomas checking a lot of boxes, looking at the scouting process?
Yeah, yes, and of course the question will be, does the box unchecked in health with AD,
Yeah.
is that going to be enough of a motivation, or would he like to trade up for somebody that has one more box checked? Because as far as we know, we've got more information on the LSU receivers, neighbors too,
Yeah.
that we could we could use draft capital to get there. As I guess what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I am fully confident that Beane has this well under control, and that no matter how many columns I put on my spreadsheet, I won't find the box that he really values the most. There are some there you can see. There's a reason that Roman Wilson will be going in the second round, and that is that his, even though he has a 13 score in scout score, he's a slot guy. We have slot guys. Everybody's forgetting about Hamler and Isabella, and where do you put Samuel, and is Shakir going to be your outside guy? So if you're looking for an X, you might want to look down that column. That I'll put a different screen up just because it's too much information. There you go.
Oh, good.
Is that this column right here, column M, is that there are X's that can do more than just be X's. All right. So McConkey can do X. He can do slot. He can do punt return. Tez Walker can do X. He can do Y. He can do slot. That sounds good. Anais Smith, Texas A&M, in a fourth round pick, could get you a slot guy, a change of pace running back, kick returner, and punt returner. And the other guy, Devon Villay, he has played some slot, and he's 6'4". If that reminds you of people, that it was interesting, and he did punt return. So that's I think what you're looking for here is you're probably looking for somebody who can catch bullets from Josh Allen. And I think that's really, really important, because the 15 of the 20 hardest passes last year were Josh's.
Yeah, we know Josh throws it hard, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes even harder than it's needed, but we know he likes to spin it, right?
Exactly.
So better be prepared to catch those. Man. And I saw in the interview column that still talking about AD. He had a pretty nice grade on the interview column. Do you feel like his character concerns and the things that people are talking badly about him are kind of overrated? And
yes,
yeah,
yes, and
awesome.
And I think that very, very often you can make an evaluation. You can talk the talk, but you still have to walk the walk. But looking for genuineness in what they're saying, and just how they, if you watch more than one interview, you really get that perspective. So I'm convinced that he's looking at the top 6 guys on this page. I think one of them is going to be a Buffalo Bill.
Awesome, man. Bills Mafia, hit that like button, subscribe to my canal do Fernando Schmude channel, and support me. I just reached 500 subscriptions. It's for free. So
Good
targeting,
stuff.
thank you, Dean.
That's
Targeting
good.
1,000 now. Why not, right? So
Yep.
working for that. And I ask you, Bills Mafia, please support my channel, subscribe for free, and hit that like button. I'm always trying to produce the best possible content for you, so I count on you to on supporting me. Dean, all this stuff, man. Just like you tweeted today, scouting the scouts, right?
Yeah.
How much do you think is it important to? You just told me you think one of the top six guys there in the column would be can become a Bill or will become a Bill in the future. How important is to go after all those interviews, all those who the Bills meet at the combine, who the Bills meet at the Senior Bowl, the pre-draft visits. How important are those boxes for us as fans to try to guess who are going to be the next Buffalo Bills players going forward?
Well, it's a good question. One of the things that I would say is that Kincaid had all of the above last year, and so I don't think it's wasting my time to track all this. Besides, I love it. I think this is fun. It's like a really big puzzle, and
Yeah.
uh, I need something indoors because I live in Rochester. I'm right down the street from training camp, and I need something when it rains. So we certainly had a lot of that lately. So
Yeah, man, it's really fun. I really, it's awesome, and the job you has done, the work you has done is awesome, and it's fascinating to watch, to read, to learn from you. It's like a class about the scouting process, and I really enjoy it, and I'm sure that my audience is enjoying as well. Um, Other than that, man, we talked a lot about receivers, but Bean is known as a guy that can every year go to the free agency and kind of set some floors for the Bills, so he isn't really pressed at drafting for a position for a need, right?
yes,
And this year is a little bit different with the Diggs trade. We don't know for sure since when he felt like we got a trade Diggs, but it happened and might have forced his hand a little bit, and that's why we've talked so much for about wide receivers. But can you see other position player maybe being so high on their board and in the process of scouting that they can maybe we get this wide receiver in the trade markets or later in the draft, and we can draft this guy as a best value in the first
right.
round.
I agree to an extent. I do think Leggett will be there for the Bills. McConkey might be there for the Bills, and if they want to wait second round, Tez Walker would be there for the second pick. I'm
Mhm.
pretty confident at this point, but I'm going to show you Billsy defensive backs just to annoy people, and
Okay.
I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show it to you by scouting score, and then we're going to look across over here. So these are guys that probably he's looking at later in the draft, right? Because
Mhm.
because Josh Proctor he's on the Buffalo fan base big board at 200. Andrew Phillips, who came in for a 30 visit or is about to, I have at 133. That's actually a round 4 pick. Cameron Kitchens also would be there. I can't decide between the two of them, but the interview decided it for me.
Yeah.
And Tyke Smith from Georgia had a really good interview. I was really impressed with him, and he's equally good in man and zone. And Cooper DeJean is one of my wild cards here, as far as a player that could be picked by the Bills at 28, and nobody should be disappointed because he is at one time your corner, whichever one he works into. He's your safety, whichever one he works into. He's your kick returner, and he's equally adept in man and zone. So that increases the number of ways that you can use him. And I've always said that Beane likes chameleons. If a person is can disguise pre-snap what he is or who he is on that play, that's really good. Tyler Nubin is the other one. I think he'd be sort of a trade back option. The guy from Minnesota.
Yes.
Also very hard to figure out what he's doing pre-snap. And I think that those are the ones that could jump out there. But keep in mind, Cooper DeJean might be one of those targets if it isn't, let's say, a D lineman or a wide receiver.
Great.
The D lineman, the D lineman is more of an interesting story. These are in scouting score order, and notice who's at the top. Chris Jenkins. Chris Jenkins had one of the 4 best interviews, along with Keith Randolph, Jordan Jefferson, and Leatu Latu. Chris Jenkins would be a 2nd-round pick, and this front office drafted his father. So there is.
I was gonna ask you, how many more points did you give him for his father being a former Panther?
You know what? I didn't. I didn't. But look at this. He had a combine meeting. He had the pro day OL coach go to his pro day, and he had quite a few games that had a scout at. East Carolina, Nebraska, UNLV, Minnesota. They could have seen Nubin at that one. Rutgers, yeah. Indiana with Beane, and Purdue. Penn State had 2 scouts, and then the scouts skipped the Michigan-Ohio State game. I think that they were doing something else that week. So anyway, that got him the highest score. And certainly a Michigan lineman is going to come to us in the draft. It probably might be, round 5, round 6, but we're going to have a Michigan hog molly, and it'd be nice to have 2 hog mollies, one on each side of the ball. There's some other good ones there. I know that they brought in Mason Smith for a 30 visit, and his number of pressures per game was top 5. So Leonard Taylor would be another one, pressures top 5. Tyler Davis of Clemson, and all of these guys got plenty of looks. The one in the top that has the most sacks in his career is Johnny Newton, and I'm not sure he's going to make it to our pick, but we've already sort of got a Johnny Newton type at Oliver. So he's as disruptive, and certainly we could get somebody else like later on that could do some damage there too. And Leatu Latu is the guy that you notice that he's 259 pounds, and that's probably soaking wet. He's the one that actually retired from football, and had a spinal fusion. And if you're comfortable about the fact he has 12 career starts in college, you're getting 23 sacks as the ceiling, but he has a really, really, really low floor because you're basically working with a ball of clay. He's insane, 4.34 shuttle and 7.09 3-cone. That's not even close to anybody else. And last thing I'm going to say about defensive linemen is that Logan Lee down here is a wrestler, and maybe he wouldn't be able to resist the fact that he's a wrestler. Nice. It would be a nice fifth round, 6th round pick.
We know a guy that loves wrestlers, right?
Yeah. So they might not even be able to stand it and just draft him first. So
How about Tavondre Sweat, Dean? Because Tavondre Sweat, when we look at those huge one technique nose tackles, people tend to believe, oh, that's not what the Bills are recently under McDermott. But now we have some changes in the coaching staff, and I definitely can see some of
sure,
those new coaches maybe trying to convince McDermott, like, look, I can use one of those, in my schemes or with the
that's
way I
true.
see the defensive line. So, do you feel like he can be a possibility in which round maybe he could be a possibility for the Bills? If
Yeah,
so,
so trade down. Yeah, I think he might last to the the uh, the top of the third, only because his weaknesses are pretty well known by the NFL coaches, and that is that if you run the play away from him, he can't catch up. Um, and that's why his pressures per game is so low, and his sacks are so low. Is that is basically he's gumming up two gaps, right? So
Mhm.
if but if you want your linebackers to do the work like the Bills linebackers, it certainly is a possibility. I I just would, if we ended up getting a third rounder, good investment. I think I'd still take Mason Smith
Yeah, another huge
over
guy,
him.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I back maybe 1 year ago when nobody believed Bernard could be the middle linebacker, and I was fighting hard here, like he
I know,
will be
right?
the middle linebacker. I used to tell people like maybe they try to put some size in the defensive line to keep two Milanos, like Bernard being the second Milano, two light guys flying around, and I can see maybe the Bills. Daquan Jones does it so well, right? And I can see the Bills valuing a guy like Sweat maybe to do this dirty job and keep Bernard and Milano more free to
Right.
fly and do what they do, right?
So there you bring up a good point that I think you probably need somebody behind Daquan. We actually have some players that are behind Daquan, um, and let's see if I can bring that up
Yeah, absolutely, man.
there.
And
So
and and do
here's
you
an
see the
idea.
Bills?
Uh,
Yes.
Take somebody in like the fifth round, like Jordan Jefferson. Um, get yourself one more or two more edges, even late, like Brendan Jackson or Cedric Johnson. Um, um, Bills have always liked names like Jackson and Johnson because we've had tons of them on the team. Um, and then get somebody a little bit more of a difference maker like Christian Boyd, who who nobody seemed to be able to handle. Put him
Mm.
at three tech, and I think you've got a pretty good defense there. Daquan Jones, age 32, is probably the most daunting thing on here, and I'm not even including Von freaking Miller at age 34. That
Yeah.
so you do have age creeping in there, but you do have some good guys in the wings that are just a little bit younger. Kingsley Jonathan and AJ Epinesa and people like that. Um, so you probably need reinforcements back there, but I think you're going to be fine. Again, I
Yeah,
don't.
and Austin Johnson, Deshaun Williams are experienced guys as well. They have experience playing and starting even and the
Right.
defensive line, right? So it's not like you can draft a rookie in the fifth round and it's guaranteed that he'll play over those veterans that are savvy already, right?
Yeah. So I'm thinking you mentioned our linebackers, and I don't know what to do about linebacker. This is kind of the list that I came up with for pet cats in the linebacker department. I was trying to see if there was anybody that they had gone after, and so these guys are kind of late. Curtis Jacobs got a combine meeting and a pro day, and that's where Penn State is where Manny Diaz is now, McDermott's friend. So a pick in that round 5 area for Curtis Jacobs would be a really savvy pick. I like J.D. Bertrand. He didn't get quite as many looks, but I really like JD Bertrand. He had the best interview. He reminds me a lot of Bernard.
Oh, okay.
And in the scouted game, he had 9 tackles, 5 of them solos, 1 sack, and 1.5 tackles for loss, and that was against Louisville. Was not a, he was a game wrecker in that game, and I know that some people like the guy that they brought in for a 30 visit, Edwafon Ulafosio, and his solos per game was the highest on here. So he had a 39.5 vert. So that was good. And he led all tacklers in the game that they scouted there as well. So those are just some names to think about if you hear them on probably Saturday, I'm guessing, by the time they get to the day 3 picks.
Jim, how about the Kinchin's partner in crime, the other Miami safety, Williams, the former 5-star recruit and big guy? Do you think he can maybe a possibility for the Bills, even thinking linebacker, a transition for linebacker?
I think that's how I grouped him, actually.
Yeah. Because his former coach is there, right? So the Bills have probably plenty of intel on him, a great athlete, right?
Right.
And I every time I look at him, I think, man, this guy might be a project for the Bills at linebacker.
So yeah, James Williams, is that the guy you're talking about? James Williams? Yeah, so Jamil Adai is the secondary coach from Miami. He's now with the Bills. And James Williams is all of 6'4", 231. He didn't have a great 40 time, but if you're if you're closing in from further back, like the way they used him, he can be sort of that safety OLB type like Milano was. When they talked about it.
He's actually bigger than Milano and than Bernard, right? He's bigger than them.
Yes. And so as a matter of fact, Milano is 6'0", 223, 6'0", 223, and ran a 4.67. And now you're looking at James Williams, 6'4", 465. So not much difference.
Yeah, true.
And 3.24 solo tackles per game. The reason I do that with the DBs is that's what brought Dane Jackson to the Bills. They love the ACC type. They went to Pitt as often as they did to Miami this year.
There is a new cornerback now that they followed closely, right from Pitt.
So so Pitt is a great school. I like MJ Devonshire.
Yeah,
back there, he would be a corner and a kick returner. And I think they really like Bub Means and Matt Goncalves. They're the offensive tackle. He's the kind of size. He's kind of size that Cromer loves. He's 6'6", 330, and runs a 5'1", and could end up being that swing tackle, which could be important depending on what they do with Ryan Vandermark. I think, and whether Tommy Doyle recovers. Yesterday they said that Tommy Doyle was still working out, rehabbing. So I don't know. It'd be, again, these are all probably day 3 picks that you can fill in your roster with.
True. Dean, any guys that maybe some Bills fans love as prospects, guys that are great prospects, but they haven't received a lot of attention from the Bills for some reason, and you can tell people, look, don't prepare yourself to be heartbroken because probably the Bills are going after them.
Yeah. Well, sometimes there's some players that like Johnny Newton. He had a special pro day arranged for him, and because of his foot injury, he did not work out at the pro day. Same with Julian Pearl, and I'm seeing a lot of people mocking Tommy Eichenberg. I didn't like his interview at all, and the Bills skipped the pro day this year. I think they were looking at next year's players. If you saw next year's players on Ohio State, it's a laundry list. So now they didn't go to the pro days. They did not go to the pro days of Oregon, which is Jackson Powers Johnson, the center.
Yeah.
Oh, Nix, of course. They had a combine meeting with him. And Troy Franklin, they had a private workout with him and a 30 visit. So maybe they didn't feel that they had to travel all the way across the country to do that one. You don't have much of an excuse for not attending Auburn's pro day. They run a 4.25, and DJ James, Nehemiah Pritchett, Jalen Simpson, and Marcus Harris are sometimes mocked to the Bills, especially Jalen Simpson because he's a safety. The Bills did go to 2 games of theirs, and they brought in Ketan Oladapo in a private workout, and Anthony Gould is a wrestler. He would be a 7th round wide receiver, slot type. Jonah Ellis had a special pro day and just killed it. I think he's worked himself into day 2 conversation. One of my favorite players that wasn't scouted at all was Bo Richter. He's sort of an edge rusher. Latu, they didn't go to the UCLA pro day. Again, it's on the other side of the freaking country.
Yeah.
But they did bring him in for a 30 visit. So they got to clear up questions about him and should he drop, and what are they going to do medically to support him if they make him his pick. Muhammad Kamara, I know everybody loves him. He's a darling. And the Bills have not had any games and did not go to the pro day. I don't know what to tell you. The Yale offensive tackle, they had a combine meeting with him, but they didn't go to his pro day. They didn't go to any games. And same with Xavier Weaver, the edge rusher from Colorado. I don't know if they don't like Dion or what it is, but they kind of passed on that.
Yeah.
So
awesome. And have you actually noticed any interest in any different position? Because we've talked a lot about wide receivers, defensive line, and safety, maybe.
Right. Right.
Have you noticed anything different about other positions, like other than those usual where the Bills can surprise everybody with a surprise pick at 28, maybe, or even in the second round when you think, oh, now I'm gonna fill a hole.
Okay. I got one for you. How about a Thunderback fairly early, and the one I'm kind of leaning toward is Trey Benson of Florida State as a 2nd round pick. 216. He's played at 220. He runs a 4.39 40. He has 9 scouting points there. He was their kick returner at Florida State for quite a while, and he's one of the 4 best pass blockers in the draft as far as pass protection is concerned. So Thunderback early, and I like him. Braylon Allen, everybody mocks to the Bills because he's 235 pounds, but he can't pass block worth a damn. So if you should choose another guy that's speedy and you can get later on, Isaac Guerendo probably be a decent choice. Other than that, the weight goes down pretty fast as far as getting a Thunderback. You can get one of those you can get one of those in another way. I just sorted this by weight, and you
Yeah.
notice that Audric Estime, who's been brought in for a 30 visit, he'd be a 109 third rounder, acquired pick
Mhm.
kind of thing. And there's Garendo right below him there. And Trey Benson is also, I think, has been brought in for a 30 visit as well.
Yeah, we know that Bean has drafted running backs early, right? With Singletary, with
Yes.
Moss, then Cook, and we've seen Cook is improving, is getting better, obviously, but we've seen games where McDermott benched him with the fumble stuff, and he's maybe not the best or most proven guy pass blocking yet, right? So
Yeah, right.
we could be surprised there for sure. I can see it.
There's one other running back that we have to remember is that Frank Gore played for the Bills, and Frank Gore Jr. leads the list in career net yards. He's quite good as a receiver out of the backfield, and he did really well in the scouted game that he played there. There was a lot of early interest in Blake Corum, but I think that's kind of subsided with his lower 40 time that he got. I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked if they saw him dropping and picked him up in the early third, though.
Got it.
All
Bills
right.
Mafia, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my own channel, Fernando Schmude's channel here. Always producing content for you, Bills Mafia, also internationally for Brazil, Latin America, in Portuguese as well. So you can subscribe for free on my channel and support me. So please hit that like button, subscribe, join my channel, keep supporting me. I really appreciate all the support. Dim, I don't want to take too much of your time, and I've already doing so. So how about doing a quick mock? I don't want to spend way too much time there because I don't want you to be mad at me or for holding you here for too long.
No, we'll do that because it's fascinating to use the information that we just got and try to pick based on how much, let's say, the scouting score of the players that are available. So let's try that.
Yeah, FunSpeak has a nice tool, right, where you have your board there, right? With
So what this is FanSpeak, and it's got the Buffalo Fan Base Bills big board, and I'm just going to start the round, and we won't do any pre-trade yet. Well, there you have it. We've got Michael Penix, J.C. Latham, Byron Murphy, Johnny Newton, Chop Robinson, Graham Barton, Ladd McConkey. And what you would probably say is like, well, gee, if I wanted Leggett, he's down at 36. A.D. Mitchell's at 32. Why don't we try? Somebody wants a quarterback. What's going on here? So the way to do that is that three of the teams that need quarterbacks don't have the picks. So I could try to trade down out of round one so that somebody can get the 5-year deal on that one. I could take Cooper DeJean. Oh, Cooper DeJean was taken at 17. Look at that.
Yeah.
So what I think I will do, if it's all right with everybody, is to try to trade with a team that's just over the border. Let's try the Carolina Panthers. I think they have pick 1 and they have pick 7. So let's see. If I send next year's 3. Nope. It won't work. Next year's 2 and this year's 1. Would that be a good trade? Probably not.
Nope.
Let's do this. It'll tell me they took it. All right. Just want to prove that you could trade down and out so that somebody could get a falling quarterback, because I counted 7. Bears, Commanders, Broncos, Patriots, Vikings, Giants, Falcons, Raiders. I guess that's 8. teams that could deal with a quarterback there. Now I've got almost the same list, but now I have more trade material. All right, I have two round twos, and I can probably parlay that into other picks as well. But
Yeah.
but I could
You got a next year's pick for this trade down.
So it would be possible. Let's do this. Ladd McConkey is so billsy that we're going to take him. I love Leggett. I think he's a good straight line receiver. Worthy is a fast receiver, and that could stretch your field, which could open things up underneath for Shakir and for Kincaid.
Dean, I have some questions about McConkey, and I would like to hear you talking about him because I feel like that's a guy that, and he fits what Beane said yesterday about not needing a true number one wide receiver to be successful. And McConkey, I see him as a guy that can be a very, very good slot guy, a nice number two, but not your number one target, you know. And I feel like his floor is high, but his ceiling is not that high.
Right?
Wouldn't you be more inclined to try a guy with a higher ceiling, or do you feel like his floor is so good that it's better to guarantee something like that?
Yeah. I think that McConkey is so billsy, and the interview was great, and he's just as fast as Leggett. And the other piece of it is he can disguise what he does before the snap better than Leggett. You know where Leggett's going.
Yeah.
The other piece of it is that there are only two guys on our list that have yards per catch against AP ranked teams that are higher than 16. Those are Brian Thomas and Ladd McConkey. So those are reasons that I think that he's definitely in the cards for the Bills. So I'll stick with McConkey, and I think we can get two, but we'll see what happens here.
Okay.
But I'd love to find out what people thought. I'm declining trades and see what we have here. Okay, sure. So there is Trey Benson, the one that has the most visits of all of these. Javon Bullard is a great choice. Jaden Hicks might even end up being a better safety than Bullard. Malachi Corey is the yak guy that Beane was talking about yesterday. And Cole Bishop was one of those guys that we were talking about that's safety extraordinaire. And look down here is Cam Kitchens. So
and Walker is there still, right? The possibility of a double dipping maybe with Walker, a guy that has visited the Bills and
That's right. So now I'm kind of torn between Polk and Benson. I know that there will be good safeties available later.
True. No defensive lineman now here.
So right now, this part, Michael Hall is one of the worst interviews, and he's the only one that's on the board there. The edge right now is Jonah Ellis. So that is also a possibility. And I know they like Cedric Johnson later. Do you want to go with Ellis just for fun?
Could be. Let's go.
Or do you
feel like it's? Yeah, I don't think he's the best value there, right?
No. Probably the best value is Jalen Polk.
I like Polk there.
Okay.
We like him there. And I feel like he's a different kind of player from McConkey, right? You get two different kind of receivers.
So you've got variety there. Let's do it. Now the question is, do we try to now we don't have a pick in the third. I can try proposing a trade to get up into the bottom of the third, but we'd be using both fourths.
I feel like being the way he was caught off guard with the compensatory pick formula, I feel like he wanted badly to join the third round, right?
Yes, I think so. But he said something about not mortgaging next year for this year. So he can do some amazing things with post draft as well. So let's just see where this takes us. And
Yeah,
what I think we probably still need defensive linemen. We probably need edge, and we probably need safety.
it's
And
true.
here's an opportunity. We've got pick 33 and 25 to move up to 24. So that would be one way to do it. I don't think he's going to use all 10 of his draft picks. So I'm going to be accepting most trades here.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So there it is. We can look down here and say, do you have any names here that appeared when we were talking? Quantez Stiggers was definitely one of the people that we talked about.
Okay.
We talked about Isaac Guarendo, the running back,
True.
and Katan Oladapo. We were talking about him being the 30 visit.
Mhm.
Let's take the 30 visit because maybe
True.
he would. And I've still got Stiggers and the defensive lineman right now, Tyler Davis, who I believe was on the list, and Christian Boyd.
Kenny Jackson, one of those big dudes.
Yeah. Do you want to go with Christian Boyd? We need more beef in the middle.
Yeah.
So we could also look at Tyler Davis versus Boyd and see just where we are, Davis versus Boyd in terms of
Which running backs are available now there?
So, Christian Boyd, you're right. He's 325. You've just plugged your one tech, and with a guy that has high pressures per game. Let's do it. So Christian Boyd. The other piece of it is, you don't know who's going to step up that's already on the team, but
true.
We've got now. This is where Beane makes hay. He's got 2 picks in this round, 2 picks in the next round. And I will tell
Williams is there.
There's James Williams and Malik Mustafa. I have a tough time choosing there. Let me show you I'll show you really quickly that these are the guys that are safeties that I think that they're looking at. Malik Mustafa is right here. He had a pro day visit, a combine meeting. The guys that are above him are people like James Williams, Newbin, Smith.
Yeah.
So we probably would do well taking James Williams because he already knows his coach.
True. They have a lot of intel on him and some possibilities to move him around.
Oh, this is working out. This is working out good because here's Jalen Carlisle, and he has one of the highest solo tackles per game that's on the board. So that's a possibility.
We know they value tackles a lot. Tackle ability.
And the edge right now is Brennan Jackson. They had a
that's the place where everybody would mock Kamara, but
I'm telling you,
educated us, telling us that Kamara hasn't really got the attention from the Bills.
Right, and no pro day and no games. They may know something about the program, or they might know something about the player, and I can't say. Let me do this. Hit all. Okay.
Yeah.
Carlisle is the choice here. Hunter Nourzad from Penn State is an intriguing piece if you want to replace your center, or at least have somebody behind him. Depending on how comfortable or uncomfortable you are with the current situation there. So he would be a choice. Carlisle, Nourzad, and the other one is Gabe Hall.
I was ready to ask you about Gabe Hall. How do you see him? And I see some people telling defensive tackle, some people having him as a defensive end, maybe in a 3-4. But that's a tall guy, right? A long guy, right?
Let me put this up there. This is a list, and notice that Gabe Hall is top 5 in the number of sacks in this draft class.
True.
And has a RAS of 9.12, and the scouts watched Hall and Sweat in the same game. I watched that game, and Hall won. so maybe that's the answer there. Let's take Hall.
And one thing about Hall is that the Bills were kind of connected to Armstead when he was available as a free agent. And obviously Hall isn't Armstead, but he's the same build type, tall, rangy guy.
Yeah. I think that's what they want, because you also can move him in, you can move him out, you can
True.
You can do special things with him. Now we have two.
Playing him opposite to Rousseau. Imagine that, having two of those huge guys.
That's right. Here's the thing. We skipped on center last time. Matt Lee is here, but the offensive line coach went to Michigan, and there were two Michigan players that they were looking at, maybe 3, at Michigan. Trevor Keegan is a nasty guard, and I think he's just what what Cromer would like on that offensive line, just to have a little bit more, just a little bit more of that kind of player. We already have 2 safeties. We already have 2 wide receivers. Dylan Johnson, we can do better. I'm thinking Josh Proctor had lots and lots of solo tackles per game and is a great last choice if you didn't want to go safety earlier. But let's go Trevor Keegan here.
Makes sense to have another of those nasty defensive linemen. Yeah.
Oh, we can have both. Look at that.
Yeah.
The picks were only 4 pieces apart. So let's take the center. I think we have one more pick.
The last one, right?
This is the final round 7. This is what you pick. So Beane always picks a linebacker, or he picks a developmental hog molly. And the best I can do for developmental hog molly is Giovanni Manu. They went to his pro day in British freaking Columbia, and that's a long way away.
Yeah.
So that would be one of my choices. Everybody talks about Jaden Sheridan. He didn't even run at his pro day, so I'm not happy about that. Roe Torrance is a really good guess for if you wanted to take a cornerback.
No corner so far, and he usually takes one, right?
Yeah, and let's. My second choice would have been Giovanni Manu from British Columbia. He's just a monster, but Roe Torrance is actually a really good guess for a cornerback. So let's take him and see how we did. Okay, put it down just a little bit. There you go. So your picks would be by trading. We were able to get McConkey at 33, Jalen Polk, and Kitano Ladapo. Christian Boyd visited. James Williams, excellent choice. Connection with Miami and Baylor and Michigan produces the next 4 picks. And Roe Torrance at Arizona State as your cornerback of the year. So that might be a good draft. I'll save it and we'll send it out.
Yeah. How do you feel about it, Bismarck? Let us know in the chat section here, comment section. Dean, man, I really appreciate you taking your time to join me today. Awesome talk, awesome mock. I want a copy of this one to save it here to check it out. And man, I really, really want to thank you for joining me, for teaching us today. It was a class about the draft and about scouting. So really appreciate it. I feel like my audience has appreciated it as well. And the doors of the Leading the Charge are always wide open for you to join us and to have a good talk. Thank you so much, man.
Well, we enjoyed it. I've put the mock up. I probably spelled your name wrong though. Nope, I did spell it wrong. I'll have to put it up again or send it to you.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, man.
We enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. So don't forget to subscribe to my own channel and to like this video. I really appreciate it. Marcel is a guy who's always following me here, and he's thanking us. So, Dean, thank you so much. Bills Mafia, don't forget to hit that like button to subscribe before leaving. And I will be back Sunday with another lead in the chart, but in Portuguese to the Brazilian and Latin America audience. And we stay in touch. Subscribe to the channel and you'll be able to follow my stuff closely. Thank you so much. Go Bills.
Okay, give us a follow.
Yeah. Please, Dean, let them know.
Yeah, I was gonna say give me a follow on Twitter. And
and
follow
Buffalo Fanbase.
So
check out buffalofanbase.com. Awesome content there. So a shout out to everybody involved. Thank you so much, Dean. Go Bills.
Thanks a lot. Go Bills.